crying out loud. It's not letting us stream to Twitter.
Oh boy. So just YouTube then.
Well, and Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
But change the stream key. Remove this destination from the stream, then re-add it. Remove the destination. Cancel. There we go. Oh, here we go. Remove X. Okay. Save changes.
Remove X.
Here we go. So now I think it's on. Let me make sure. Check it out. Are we live? And then what we need to do, top of your feed on Instagram. I don't see it at the top of our feed on Instagram. But there's supposedly some other step. If I can do it. On Instagram, click live video. Okay, 1 second.
All right, I'm just gonna close that door for 1 second.
Yeah.
So we don't get any cats interrupting.
All right, back. Click create. Not a new reel. Live. Add a title and choose the audience. Live. Cold take. Doctor Who. Season 1. Let's try that. Let's try that. Let's try that. Hit done. Choose the audience. Share with everyone. Done. Copy the stream key. Which is where? Why? And paste it below. Where is my stream key? Everyone, yes. It's got settings, story reels live, saving, save live to archive, controls. Where's my stream key? Keep the Instagram modal tab open. Go live. Instagram on desktop, of course. Okay, let's try this. 1 sec. Determined to get this right.
All right.
We've got to get one other platform here.
I'm in it.
Create. Live video. Here we go. Audience. Public. Next. Here we go. Stream key. Boom. You betcha.
Sweet.
Okay. Remove. Let's add it again. Here we go. Save changes. Okay. Now hopefully that worked. And we're now live. I don't know.
It's all experiments.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll see what happens. Let's add ourselves to the stage, shall we?
Sounds good. Let's do it.
Maybe we are live. I don't know. This might be. Maybe we were talking the whole time.
And it just isn't showing us.
Is it? Do you see it on?
I see in the main screen, and I'm hearing the music of the of presumably the placeholder that is up right now. I can go to YouTube and check it out.
Oh yeah, you know they can hear us.
Oh, hey!
Because
Hello,
we're on
everyone.
the stage to get us to talk to each other. So what I need to do? Hey everyone! Hope you
Hi.
liked all the behind-the-scenes crap we were doing.
Hey,
First time
hey.
using StreamYard with this setup. So let me see what I can do.
We're doing it
you're
live.
there. No, you're there.
People
You're
currently
added.
watching. We're
Here we
doing this
go.
live. We'll edit this in post, right?
We'll totally edit this in post. Oh, there we are.
Hey,
I had the thing overlaid on us.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah.
Ooh, look at that.
This is
Pulled
fun.
open perfectly on top of my TARDIS.
All right. How's everybody? We're doing it live.
All
I
right.
like the little background music. Maybe we'll get rid of that.
No, let's just keep this going.
Yeah. No, you like it?
Yeah,
You're cool?
I'm kind of vibing. It's like a.
All right.
Hey,
we're not doing
okay.
that
All right.
anymore.
Now we're being serious. We're
This is serious.
podcasters.
Oh, Pull to Open live. All right, we're learning. We're learning how to do things. There's only 6 people watching, so whatever. Hey everyone, how is everyone feeling today about live on Doctor Who Podcast Day?
Yeah, how's everyone feeling about Doctor Who Podcast Day? Is everyone too busy doing their Doctor Who podcast to listen to other Doctor Who podcasts?
Yeah.
What if every Doctor Who fan in the world had a podcast and was too busy? Like, with the whole economy would collapse. Pete, you've gained an exclamation mark after your name, which makes me think
I think you just didn't think of it.
I need to change my settings.
Why don't we just get rid of that? Because everyone knows who we are, right?
Oh, I was going to change mine. I was going to change mine to Meglos
or Kerblam.
Oh, Kablam. Or Boom. Boom is another more appropriate one.
Okay, so here we are, folks. This is it. Okay, this is where let's get serious now.
Yes.
One of these days we will have rehearsal. We are doing live for the first time, really?
Yes.
I guess on this platform.
Kind of.
Live Pull to Open for Doctor Who Podcast Day, which is today, August 9th. And we're super thrilled to be here. And we're going to talk a little bit about our cold takes on season 1. We're going to talk about things we're going to be up to in the next week or two. And we're just going to see what happens because it's live. We're live, everybody.
Yeah, we're live. We're doing it live. And Pete, is there any way that the folks listening or watching at home can reach us? Can they comment and, participate in the conversation?
You guys can comment on the chat. There we go. I've actually seen them. There's tons of comments here, and love that you guys are wondering about live and whether or not we're here and we're paying attention to you. But we are now. Now that I've found the tab with your comments, go ahead and comment all you like.
Wow, I've just found the tab with the comments as well. I don't know if I can have this up while also having the Harris Waltz video that has preceded our live stream up at the same time.
Well, you can see the comments on the actual. You have the actual YouTube page open, is what you're saying.
Yes, I do. Yeah, that's my only way.
I'm in our streaming platform, and I'm seeing them here. So please continue to comment. We're seeing them now. We'll check it out. Thank you, Chemdog, for allons-ing right in here, and Liam.
I was going to say thank you. I was going to say thank you, Chemdog, for Oh My Giddy Aunt, which I feel like we need to keep that one going in Doctor Who fandom.
That's old school, there, Chester Fun.
Chester Fun, yes.
Okay,
That may
let's
have
get
been
serious now. We're
yes.
serious podcasters, even though we're really unfamiliar with this platform. We're going to get better. We're going to do more lives. It's going to be great.
This is how we do it, people. This is how Doctor Who podcasting does it in general. I think we are what we're doing is we're kind of replicating the story so far of Pull to Open as we worked our way up from doing it on Skype with audio voice recorder, right? That was like
Right.
our first pod, very first Pull to Open way back.
Mostly
in the
audio, even though it did record video.
Yes.
There's a few select old Pull to Opens that have the video. Mostly on
Yeah.
my side. You sometimes didn't turn it on.
I did not turn my video on, so there's a handy screenshot. But yeah, you know, this, and here we are today. Look, you know, we started at the bottom, and now here we are, professional podcasters on Zencastr. I think we've got a very, very tight structure when it comes to the actual podcast itself. Doing a live, obviously, we're still floundering.
But
Well,
we're actually on. I shouldn't even say we're on. You can probably tell we're on a different platform that is streaming live to YouTube. Should maybe rethink that for the future, because there was a lot of this is pretty advanced. We jumped right to advanced stuff to do this live. But yeah, we worked our way up from Skype. Did the Zencastr. Now we're on. I might as well just say it, we're on StreamYard, streaming to a bunch of different destinations. I hope Instagram. I can't see us there right now, so I don't think that fully worked. We're going to work out the bugs on that, and we'll also get to TikTok sometime in the future. But what we're here to do is talk about that show we call Doctor Who.
Yes, indeed. And shout out to M-Dog, who has just mentioned that the second Doctor story he saw was The Invasion. Which is one that I am looking forward to getting to in our random adventure. We should say, like, I'm gonna say, as a listener to the show, I'm always kind of curious about my own sort of situation with, like, I have never felt so less like a Doctor Who fan, Pete, than when I'm talking to you, because you've seen like everything, and I am
seen the Invasion, at least.
You've definitely seen The Invasion. I'm realizing as we do this podcast that the depths of my ignorance of the old show. Just not how much I didn't get to see, and it kind of amps up the excitement for what we're doing here. Can we say, by the way, can we reveal as a special kind of advanced thing for our audience here where we're going next in our random adventure? Because I know that the posted podcasts have been a little bit behind, so we just released Terror of the Zygons. Yes,
Zygons did happen. Yes, yeah,
Zygons were Zygons. That has posted. There's another one coming up next weekend.
That's right. More terror,
although we haven't yet revealed which terror.
That's right. It was at the end of the Zygons.
Oh, it was at the end of the Vervoids. Okay. You guys are terrified of Vervoids, right?
You should be.
Everyone loves a good Vervoid. Shout out to the Sixth Doctor fans on our stream. Sure there's at least one of you out there.
Well, speaking of Sixth Doctor fans, there will be plenty in attendance at a little thing called Long Island Who.
Yeah.
Which is a Doctor Who convention that's happening on Long Island, which happens to be reasonably close to where I live, driving distance from where I live. And can I reveal now that we will both be in attendance?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna do it. We'll do it live on Long Island.
It's happening. So if you guys are around or you're in the area, please come out to Long Island Who. It's happening end of 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks from now, right? Or is it next week?
Yeah. It is the 23rd to the 25th of August.
Right.
Correct? And yeah, I guess we're gonna do a live podcast there. Yes,
we're gonna do live TBD. We'll see how this goes.
Yeah, exactly. This is all practice.
But yeah, we're hopefully get some time with Colin Baker. Nicola Bryant's going to be there. A whole bunch of other guests. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be great. We've been in touch with the organizers. We're going to do a little setup and, hopefully get some podcast action in with all the dealer action, chat action, all the things that happen. I haven't been to a Doctor Who convention in, honestly, decades. I don't know what goes on at these things, but I'm super thrilled to go to this one.
I haven't been to a Doctor Who convention.
Whoa, never?
Never. I mean,
revealed.
I grew up in very remote parts of the north of England, and it just wasn't a thing up there. Like, I'd get to go to my local comic book store and
Mm.
pick up Doctor Who magazine and the local newsagents, that sort of thing. But I didn't have the opportunity to be a part of fandom like that. So I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I've
Yeah.
done a lot of Star Wars conventions in my time. I wrote a book on Star Wars. That's mostly been my thing. But yeah, this is going to be my very, very first Who convention. And shout out to Liam Mills, also from the UK, by the way, who I believe in response to us calling out Sixth Doctor fans, he said there are dozens of us. Dozens. So Terror of the Vervoid is going up, but what to loop back to that, just to finish that thought, we can exclusively reveal, I think, for you guys, where we're going next after Terror of the Vervoids, where the randomizer sent us next, and the podcast that we're about to record. Pete, do you want to fill us in on, not previously on, but next on Pull to Open?
I can reveal here for the first time, prior to our release of Terror of the Vervoids, you now all are privileged to know our next adventure is The Girl Who Waited.
Yes, an appropriate level of waiting in this live to get to that reveal, because it is. It's coming up, and I gotta say, I got some thoughts on how well it holds up, and it's weird watching it for the first time in 15 years.
Something
Anyway,
like that. I don't know. When
yeah,
did it come out? 2011, right?
yeah,
That's more
yeah.
like 13 years. So close.
Yeah, so nice to get a little bit more Matt Smith in the commentary. You did in fact mention that to the randomizer, right? That we had some holes in the Matt Smith era, so we're starting to fill them
Big
in.
hole. Yeah, I like. Smith is a great doctor. I'm kind of biased a little bit because he's the doctor I've met the most in real life. Maybe the only doctor. No, I've actually never met Colin Baker, so I'm super looking forward to Long Island New.
I have met Colin Baker. I did interview him at a Comic-Con, I believe.
That's right. I remember you mentioned once or twice.
Yes, this was right when Jodie was announced, and he was all for it. And then Peter Davison on a panel said something that made it sound like he wasn't all for it.
I remember this. Yeah, that was sort of in the days of toxic Twitter, and not that Twitter's not a cesspool anymore, but it is. At least it's not quite in the height of stupid cancel culture stuff like that. So it sort of drove Peter Davison away from social media, which is honest, probably the best for him. I'm kind of like, that was a good choice, regardless of what comment was misrepresented. But
some doctors should be on social media. Like, I don't think William Hartnell would ever have done well on Twitter had it been in existence when he was around. Like,
I think that's a safe bet.
Right? I mean, there's just some doctor actors maybe necessarily shouldn't say everything they could. But
all right, confirmed we're live on Instagram finally. By the way,
hey!
So at least we got one other network. So we got YouTube and Instagram going on. Okay. So really looking forward to the convention in a couple weeks. Long Island Who, please come out if you can. Tickets are still available, and they're kind of affordable. If you can only come out for one day, you'll save a bundle. And so one thing we did promise was we were going to talk a bit about season 1 or season 14 or season 40, depending on your calendar.
Season 40. Is that what it is?
It is. It's actually the 40th. So 26 seasons, the original, right? Mm-hmm. Plus 14 of the new, right? So
I would love it if, because we've now got a 3-way bifurcated nature of like what these seasons are called, what numbering system we're using. I think that we should wait until season 42 and then bring the streams together with 42.
Oh,
all the Douglas Adams connections that Doctor Who has would pull together for that one. Plus the, Chibnall will be very happy at the shout out for his episode name. Just
Woody though.
You know what? We had the same problem as Mashable. Like, Ncuti's first season 1, according to Disney Plus. But what we found was a lot of people were searching for season 14. So that's what we did, and all the headlines in our SEO. Like, we focused on the season 14 thing.
Well, this touches on one of the key aspects that I want to dive into on Ncuti Gatwa's first season, which is the dilemma between new viewers and old, and
Mm.
who they ended up catering to. And I'm kind of the school that they split the baby on this.
Mm-hmm.
That it's not Doctor Who season 1. It isn't. I mean, in terms of like year 1, like let's reboot. Let's really just start again and have adventures. They didn't do that, obviously. Just look at the season ender. It brought back the monster from 1975. No,
Yeah.
72. I forget what year it was. But it was
75, 75. Right
75.
first
I got
time.
it right the first time. I shouldn't have second guessed myself. But like even throughout, right, there were references to Old Doctor. Like even had the little the visual in Rogue. They
Yes.
had a reference to the Chocolate Doctor, for Christ's sake. Like I mean, like
Right.
come on.
And okay, let's get that one out of the way, because I just want to say thank you first of all to everyone who's been sticking with us, talking about our warm-up stuff before we actually got to the meat of what the headline is right there on our live. So let's go straight to the fact. Some people, I'm not sure if everyone has clocked this, because it was part of a magazine a magazine article in SFX, the British science fiction magazine, where RTD talked about this, and he confirmed that Richard E. Grant was just like, that was a recent photo of him. They brought him in, they took a photo, and he just thought it would be a scream to throw him in there. Now, I wish I had a tinfoil hat for this moment, because I'm going to say I don't fully believe RTD on this. I think if you've got Richard E. Grant coming into the studio for a day, even if you're saying it's for a day, I don't think you just get one photo. I think you try and do something else. Like, RTD is enough fan to be like, OMG, the great intelligence is coming in. Like, to want to do something more with it. So I'm sticking with my tinfoil hat theory that Richard E. Grant is the new Valeyard, and that RTD is playing us, he's trolling us. He knows, like, everything we've heard about season 2/season 15/season 41 is that there's going to be more. Like, we're just at the beginning of a story arc here, right? And I don't think that RTD is that disrespectful of canon, or that unaware that fans' heads would blow off if you just threw in Richard E. Grant for reasons in a scene that is supposed to show all the Doctor's regenerations. Like, could you imagine if Stephen Moffat had done that in the 11th hour? When you get that beautiful moment of the Doctor walking through the eyeball, towards the eyeball through the cloud that you see every other Doctor, and it's like establishing this is the same guy, right? You don't throw a joke in there. What do you think?
Well, I think it's a very good thing to contrast it, because they're trying to do different things, but I don't know if they should be doing different things, because you think about that scene in the 11th hour and the message it sends to both people who've been with the series for a while, but also newish viewers or casual viewers who might know a little bit about Doctor Who, but not a lot. But it still emphasizes something. It still emphasizes this legacy of the show that you can sort of dive into if you want to. I think it's actually a really interesting, triumphant moment. And because it has that emotion attached to it, it makes you kind of want to, right? So Rogue has different emotions. And different things going on. So I don't know if the same opportunity was really there, but they definitely use it as a different opportunity to signal some fun thing to the fans, to which I'm like, I've gone back and forth with RTD on, like, is he a mastermind plotting all this stuff out? And like, you got the cork board with the strings and all the pictures and whatever, and fans love to do that. And on the other side of, like, he's just doing crap, like he just, like, because his whole thing is like, oh, we're not doing anything with it, it's just a fun, we're just having a laugh. And honestly, like, I kind of feel like that's what he's been doing the whole time. Like, I wanted this meta storyline with Mrs. Flood to pay off in some way. I still kind of do, but I'm not holding out for that anymore, because he's kind of gone on record as like, yeah, maybe we'll never learn. Now, again, I don't know. Maybe this is all part of him being the showman and the enigmatic person, and I don't expect him to be fully truthful maybe he does have some elaborate plan for Mrs. Flood and all this stuff, and he's just not telling anyone. That's certainly possible. But I do have a lot of the same feelings I had when we talked about the church on Ruby Road. It's like, who cares? Like, especially if you're a casual fan or just new to the show, it's like they're not even going there. Like, and you have to sort of judge individual episodes and this season for what it sort of served up. And I'm not saying it served up crap or whatever, but it stumbled over itself on a lot of these things for casual and new viewers by sometimes creating an elaborate web and sometimes just throwing crazy stuff at the dartboard. So I think he like, that's what I mean by sort of splitting the baby. He just kind of like, well, maybe we'll do stuff that's fun for fans, or maybe we'll actually do something kind of intriguing for new people. Well, kind of tried to do both, and neither one as a whole really worked that well, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, and thank you for using the word opportunity, because I think that's what's really coming up for me. I think RTD is an opportunist in terms of his plotting it out. I don't think that's a bad thing. Like, I think that's a lot of the best franchises are like that. You're sort of nimble, and you can change things, you can retcon things slyly, subtly on the fly, and it is natural for any showrunner of a show about time travel to want to sort of insert backwards as far as possible your future reveals, right? The classic example is the Impossible Girl, bringing Souffle Girl in, half a season earlier than anyone expected. Was and also bringing River in, like, these are two things where you can feel Moffat sort of being so delighted at that him saying, yes, a time traveler would have lots of future echoes, right, of stuff that's about to happen in their future, but that's hard to do when you're a TV show, when you're a linear TV show. So I think if RTD had buy-in from Richard E. Grant to do something, even if it's just reprising the Great Intelligence or something that would make that scene make sense retroactively, he would do it. So I don't believe he's telling us the full story here, especially if you go back to that interview in SFX magazine. I encourage everyone to check it out. It's sort of like it's like letting everyone down on just almost everything. Like, he's saying the fourth wall breaking, there was actually a simple explanation for that, and it was there was an early draft of the Church on Ruby Road, I think he said, where there was an explanation for the fourth wall breaking. So he's sort of trying to let us down on that. He was trying to let us down on the Susan thing. It's just like, Grandpa's coming in to tell you Father Christmas isn't real in all of this.
Well, I think one of the things is, like, as a couple people who don't make television, we're kind of coming at it more from the fan perspective. And I think the more you peel back and understand, how television gets made, you start, whatever it may feel like. I think most shows are kind of made up on the fly in a lot of ways. Even if obviously they plan out arcs, they plan out character stuff, but every show wants to leave room for something really creative and something to happen. And they won't, they'll do a thing like the Richard E. Grant thing, not really knowing where it's going to go, but hoping it sparks something. And chances are it's going to, right? It's already has. Like, we're talking about it, even if he doesn't have that planned out, like him or a writer will likely run with that ball at some point. So did he do something the day Richard Grant came in? I don't know. How much can you do in a day? How long did it take them to do Night of the Doctor? But that was like a day or two at least, right?
I don't know. If you make it mostly audio, and then just give it a scene, maybe it's like the season 2 ender. Richard E. Grant steps out of the shadows, and it's John Hurt style. You could totally just steal that at the ending of Name of the Doctor. Richard E. Grant is the Doctor. But I just want to pause and acknowledge some of the comments we got going on. First of all, shout out for our 42 recognition fandom. I think we've succeeded on Doctor Who Podcast Day if we've generated any sort of controversy. So the fact that we've got Paul Hammond saying no, not the Valeyard, Liam Mills then saying yes, the Valeyard. I think our work here is done in terms of stirring up what you need to, and among the fandom, like that maybe one of the biggest divides among classic fandom, right? Yay Valiant or no Valiant. We could just put that poll up right now. We'll go over on Twitter.
It'd be a death
Yeah.
match. It'd be an even split. Yeah,
Paul also says that Rogue, the scene in Rogue that we're talking about, the faces, the holographic faces, is close to the old Doctor faces appearing in John Smith's sketchbook in Human Nature, which you probably also thought of.
That's dead on. That's the emotional beat there. It's not the triumphant end of the 11th hour. It's sort of something to throw in to emphasize who the Doctor is, but also maybe intrigue a little bit. And I said this at the time because we did that episode in Human Nature for the podcast. But one of the things that did do was confirm finally that Paul McGann was canon. You know, you had not seen him at all. Like, you know, obviously he wasn't the Doctor when they came back, and you weren't sure whether they going to even acknowledge the TV movie.
Yeah. The fans will never know what that period was like, where we just like we didn't know even if Eccleston was. Like, we didn't even know if any of the previous Doctors were canon. We weren't in a world where it was RTD was making that clear or easy for us. He really was trying to start afresh at that point.
But yeah, another great comment from Liam here. Future Doctor turning back time to eradicate his past timeline really is an interesting idea. Shouldn't have it jumped on that in the modern show. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So,
well,
here we go.
It may yet turn out that that Moffat has actually done that, or at least in the sense of Dr. Moon, right? Talked about the Silence in the Library podcast. Dr. Moon was in Moffat's own headcanon, not officially in Doctor Who canon, but in his own headcanon. He was like the 42nd regeneration of the Doctor from the future.
Well, I got into this with, like, this isn't related entirely to alternate Doctors, but there were some comments on YouTube that we replied to, and there's a whole debate. I don't know if it's a debate. It might be a debate in my head on, like, whether Trenzalore still happens or not. You know, like, is that the Doctor's tomb still, or was that timeline eradicated because of what happened with the Christmas planet and all that stuff, right? Like, or does he ever come back around again to Trenzalore? Who knows? And if he was the timeless child all along, how do you even have time Trenzalore? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
And if okay, is Sutek on the giant TARDIS and Trenzalore? That's what I want to know. In that timeline, is there like a giant Sutek still wrapped around the TARDIS going, I've let myself go?
I'm sure that's one for the 80th anniversary special. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about season 1. Yes. One of the things I was a little critical a second ago, but I got to say, maybe I'll balance my comments. Like, on an individual episode level, like, holy cow, this season blew me away in ways I was not expecting. 73 yards, boom, dot and bubble. Like, these are classics, man. Like, these are really good stories, and with amazing twists, great casts, and they're very different from each other too, you know?
I think you've named the 3 that are going to top the polls for this season. Possibly Rogue, possibly Devil's Cord. But I'm really, like, 73 yards was the one that you kind of show your not Doctor Who loving friends, right? For a lot of people. It had that kind of vibe to it. Very, very self-contained, shows what a time travel show can do. Is Dr. Light, and I don't know if being Dr. Light helps you when you're bringing new fans in, but it certainly did with Blink, right? I mean, that's such a jumping on point for people.
And also, the criticisms of 73 yards are really only coming from, I think, fans. And I think that doesn't mean they're not valid. I mean, I think there are some criticism, like, was it a little bit of ambiguity in what the ending really meant? And did it really sort of make sense in a way that Doctor Who does time travel? But frankly, like, who gives a crap? Like, I mean, like, it's just a really good
it's about the vibe.
Exactly. It's more about a vibe. It's a little bit like Doctor Who meets David Lynch, almost. You know what I mean? Like that. And David Lynch is like, they're freaking labyrinthine puzzles that have a ton of pieces missing all the time.
Yeah, but you know what David Lynch couldn't ever do was stick the landing.
Yeah, that's right.
And 73 yards does, even though after the show, after you turn off the show, you're like, hang on, wait a minute, let me come up with a list of 10 things that were weird about that ending and future Ruby, and like, how did this even work anyway? And so it was a time loop, and maybe you've got that going on in your head after, but while you're watching it, Like you're so in the mood of it, and you've traveled that journey with Ruby through her life, and then to have it loop back around and see it through her eyes in that very sort of video game style way at the end,
Mm-hmm.
like that
Yeah.
really hit home on an emotional level, right?
Mm-hmm.
So many good things about that staging of that episode. Like I still think of the sort of the weird sign language that they were using.
Oh yeah.
You know, I'm sure a lot of people who actually know the sign language of what she was talking about were looking at that like, why is she saying? Is she saying something about? I forget what it is. Peace be with you. It's some sort of actually really benign phrase that she's saying in sign language, but it's just supposed to be weird and creepy, and you don't know what she's saying, and she's doing this thing, and she kind of looks like a preacher or something, like 17th century Massachusetts, right? Some kind of puritanical figure.
I like, yeah, there's just so many
Yeah.
like good little set pieces and scenes throughout. I really kind of really like the sort of bar scene earlier where Ruby isn't even quite sure what year she's in, like, and
Mhm.
so she starts like, "Can I pay with my phone?" And the people at the bar are having fun with your phone. It's just, and you're kind of with her like, oh, maybe this is like the 1990s or something, and people aren't doing
Yes.
that yet. Um,
It all
and
works in terms of wrong-footing the audience, but I've
yeah,
got to say the way it ends up, and again, this goes in the category of things you think about after the show, after you watch it, that don't detract from how brilliant the story was. Like those people are just the biggest assholes in any pub ever. Like they, even for the
I don't
British,
know. There's some places on the north side of Edmonton that might compete, but yeah, definitely there's some issues.
right? I
Oh,
mean, what is their problem? I want a Big Finish special on the people in that bar. Like, what made them all such assholes?
hmm. So let's talk a little bit about Boom. I thought
Hmm.
that was just a kind of a return to form in a lot of ways because it brought back Moffat. It got
Mm-hmm.
us. It was the third episode, right? So it's after Space Babies and the Devil's Cord, which I'll be honest, like maybe didn't start the new show off on the strongest foot, like Space Babies in particular. I actually kind of like Space Babies probably more than most, but
Mm-hmm.
it was definitely a strange tone setter to start kick off season one. Like it honestly just a bit silly. Maybe we talk about Space Babies if rather than Boom. But I want to get to Boom because Boom is like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, this is it. This is Doctor Who, and I know it's just like it's kind of pleasing more of the hardcore fan, the people who like the hard sci-fi. That's what Boom was all about. But I found that it just really delivered
Yeah.
on like that tension like that you don't get quite often enough in the show.
I wish I hadn't known that Boom was written by Moffat, because I think
Mhm.
my expectations were so high going into it. And I think they were sort of met, but then it was like blown away, as it were, by watching 73 Yards right after that. And I like, because I had this thing of getting the screeners in advance, so I watched Boom, I think, very close to 73 Yards. And it just, there was no comparison.
Mm.
That was all. I would actually, if I was Moffat, I'd be calling RTD and being like, "What the hell did you do? Like, is it?" most often people would be like, "Well, I'm not following Stephen Moffat," and RTD was like, "I'm following Stephen Moffat, and I'm going to blow it. I'm going to blow Boom away with this next
Mm.
story." Right? It just, if you watch them back to back, Boom is great, but 73 Yards is a banger.
Yeah,
Right?
whoa, okay, don't reveal
Sorry, I'm just,
your
yeah.
rating for the official pod on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like Boom a lot. I don't know actually, like of the top three where I'd rank them. And maybe we could figure that out by the end of this live. But Boom, just I don't know. There was a lot of sort of flavor there, that sort of
Mm-hmm.
familiar Moffat stuff with the Anglican soldiers, the twist where we've seen the enemy and it's us,
Mm-hmm.
and just the all the sort of visual stuff that goes hand in hand with him being on the mine, and particularly the lights that are sort of slowly filling in and things. I don't know, all of those elements. I just thinking about it, I kind of want to watch it again, maybe even a
Yeah.
little more than 73 yards. Um,
Really interesting. I totally
but
watched 73 Yards in a heartbeat, given the
mm,
opportunity. But I think as we're talking, I'm zeroing in on the the reason why Boom left me slightly cold. I mean, I agree, it's a solid story, a solid Dalek. I'm just spoiling ratings all over the place, but I think that the trope of medical device, not medical device killing you and thinking it's saving you. And again, maybe it's because we've just watched Girl Who Waited, and we're going to talk about that in our next podcast. But that just seems so played out now at this stage, right? The ambulance that thinks it's helping but is really killing. It just like, can we move on from that? Can we,
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I will say it's true. I think this stuff it sort of has to say about war and the sort of themes of it didn't quite deliver. Maybe that's why it didn't really stick the landing, but it had me while it was happening. And, I like thrillers. I like action movies. I like things that really get my adrenaline going. So I give it a lot of points for that. Okay. We're kind of going very specific on things. We've already done our sort of hot takes on all these things.
Yes.
I do want to do it just quickly, like more just do rapid fire. Although, and I think Dot and Bubble deserves more than rapid fire, but we'll save that for the real pod.
Sure.
Dot and Bubble, like amazing. Like I might even call it number one. Again, I'm on the sort of my top three there, and I think I probably would rank them like Dot and Bubble, and 73 yards very close second, and then Boom pretty good in the neighborhood, but not quite on the level of each. But Dot and Bubble, I thought like once I finally got to talk to you and put it all together,
right?
I watched it again, and it's just great. Like all the things that they foreshadow in subtle ways to that ending, and all the performances are excellent. And
it manages to be a slow burn, which is like, it's fascinating the way that Dot and Bubble sticks in your head afterwards once you put the pieces together. And then you think back on stuff. I mean, I mentioned this in our hot take that I lost a lot of sleep that night thinking about, oh my God, what were they screaming at the doctor when they were on mute? Sort of put the whole horrible cast on it. And you start to think about stuff like the Great Abrogation, like your world building in your head, as to what exactly happened with this planet here.
Well, and it's funny, like the Callie Cook who plays Lindy is almost kind of like the lead in this, right? Because there's the whole scenes where the Doctor and Ruby aren't even in it, and they're mostly on screen for most of it. So, but she does a great job, I think, of carrying this burden of being unlikable, but you don't know the dark secret, and then winning over the audience in some, like she has a real roller coaster journey in this. And I think she really delivers on it, because you kind of hate her at the beginning, but then she's kind of getting saved and working with Ruby and the Doctor. And then, okay, I guess we got to kind of root for her. And then you are kind of rooting for her when she's like falling for Ricky September a bit. And all that
you
stuff.
Want her to get the man.
Her character arc is just like, you kind of want good character arcs like this for the main characters. I don't think most Doctor Who episodes you have this good character arc.
And then it switches again at the end, and like who would have thought that you are like at the end you're like, wow, I'm in favor of the slugs, like ghost slugs. When has that happened in Doctor Who, that they make you rethink the monster after the fact?
There were so many memes about like, oh, I didn't realize these was the heroes the whole time, all over the internet. So it just lends itself to so many things. I mean, just so many ways you can watch it, reinterpret it. I don't want to go too far on it because we'll do a full podcast on it. But just to play off the Callie Cook thing, and I'm really glad Paul in the comments agrees. But one of the things I would say about performances in this season, girls rule. I mean, not only was Callie Cook great, but for me, and I've said this before, Millie Gibson, I thought was, from my mind, because I knew nothing about her going into this. Like I thought, and she was just the breakout star for me. I mean, just doing like, especially with 73 yards. That's, I was just saying the companion and the Doctor really need good character arc. She had a great arc in that one, and a really big challenge. Like that was like the first thing she basically shot, right? Like, and she has to do this thing where she's playing this character who's new to this world, but then ages, and so and has this weird dark secret she can't tell people, and it's just, there's so many dimensions to it. But I felt like she really fully understood where her character was at each of those times, and just like knocked it out of the park. And that was kind of an example of like her throughout. in my view.
Yeah, the Doctor's Companion is we kind of know this. I think it's really impressing itself, especially recently as the randomizer has taken us to a lot of episodes where we're thinking about companions leaving, companions joining. The companion carries the weight of the show on their shoulders, because if we can't see the Doctor through their eyes, we're going to be much more remote ourselves from the show. The companion is our avatar. And so if you don't feel a connection to them, you're kind of lost. So well done, Millie Gibson, for doing that. I think her Coronation Street background has done her well, and the physical nature of her acting, and the way she's sort of unafraid to kind of she's kind of comic, almost a bit Donna Noble-esque at times, right? And I still.
And a little Sarah Jane. I'm going to say a little Sarah Jane too. And I get, that's obviously echoes throughout on sort of like what a good companion is. But I thought that physicality, because we've just done Terror of the Zygons, and I thought I talked about this in the podcast, that bit where Liz Sladen is sort of messing with the door and kind of like is figuring out whether she's safe or not in that moment in the Zygon ship, like really good, real, visceral performances because of the physicality that she brought to it. And in just similarly with Millie Gibson, the scene I always sort of think about is that initial, like, I want you to join me on the TARDIS, please, at the end of Space Babies. That's like one of the better, like, come on board with me moments in the series. Like the way they're sort of back and forth. Honestly, I haven't seen it in a while. I couldn't tell you the dialogue, but I just remember like kind of there on the edge of my seat. Come on, you want to go with him? And she's kind of like that too. And she kind of like does it. And the way they, they're obviously very physical with each other, and they're hugging and all this stuff. You're just, I don't know. The emotion.
You see her face. Yeah, you see her face go through a range of emotions.
Right.
As they kind of do at the beginning of Devil's Cord, where she's like almost running out of the TARDIS, and then she sort of frowns. It's like, hang on, we need to look different, right? They go back for the wardrobe. But yeah, I got to say, Millie Gibson, MVP of Rogue for me. I watched that again recently because a friend hadn't seen it, and obviously the romance takes center stage, literally, and very self-consciously. But she is just, she's just so good at the comic relief. And I mentioned in a hot take, I want to mention it again because I love it so much. The way that she holds up a finger when something weird has happened and just sort of pauses, just holds it there for a minute and does the guppy fish thing. I'm like, and I love that. I feel like I want to incorporate that in my own life some more. But yeah, I'm just reminded by talking about Devil's Cord, we kind of skipped over that. And
yeah, we did.
I want to give Devil's Cord a shout out, a sort of surprise. Like, I wouldn't put it in top 3, but like it's got a solid shot at being number 4. Like it was really that was also surprisingly kind of a good one to introduce people to. And I got to wonder if they should have flipped the order of Devil's Cord and Space Babies. I know that a lot of newbies were turned off by Space Babies, but then loved Devil's Cord.
Maybe, I don't know. I'd have to kind of look at it because I feel like it's that ending of Devil's Cord is so weird. It's just so weird. And you're kind of like, what? I kind of think, what are you doing? Like, RT, like I again, at the time, I was like, well, maybe this is going somewhere and they're going to do a meta storyline. Maybe they will still, but it hasn't paid off yet. So, but I feel like if you're new to the show, you're kind of like, oh, this is kind of goofy. Like, I don't know. It's almost like they needed a chaser with Boom to do hard sci-fi after that. And you want to think like, why wouldn't you start with that, and then have fun? Because I feel like the fun stuff immediately gets people to take it less seriously, and you want it to be taken seriously when it needs to be, right? And
speaking of having fun and Devil's Cord, go check out the podcast where I have seen the screeners of the first 2 episodes, and Pete hasn't, and I knew that I had to have some fun with that in some way, and you teed up the perfect opportunity for me when you said, what do you think is going to be the most controversial thing about the Devil's Cord? And I said, the twist at the end. And I meant it. Like, I do think that song is still, and I'm seeing it in the chat right now, clearly very controversial, and maybe the most controversial thing of the season to have that song in there. What do you think looking back on it now?
I wouldn't have done it. Or I would have done something else, or done it something like it more mid-show. It's not like Doctor Who's never been camp and hasn't
Mhm.
done fun things, but there's a limit to it, right? There's a ceiling, and I think, but to kind of like uncork it so that it's sort of out of control, I think that should be a little more deliberate than just we're going to have some fun. And
Mhm.
you needed some reassurance at the same time somehow, and they didn't quite provide that. So, but I think back to episodes like Seeds of Death, and they
Mhm.
have a goofy, campy chase in the moon base. But it wasn't over, it didn't blow the top off it. You know what I mean? Like, there wasn't literally Patrick Troughton doing a line dance with Ice Warriors. You know, there was
Although,
it was goofiness, there was like silliness, but it was all done in the story. So they kind of got away with it, and there was more of a tone setting thing. This completely was like, we're breaking the fourth wall and we're just having a dance number and
yeah,
making it
I
part of the
was.
show. I mean, I think either again, if it wasn't deliberate, that's dumb. If it was deliberate, it hasn't paid off yet, and that's dumb. So I honestly think I wouldn't have done it.
I'm definitely more down on it now than I was at the time, or that I would be if I just watched it, because as you say, it is just so much fun, and the fun of it is infectious and it washes over you. But that's the thing, is that they're really, I'm seeing now, and maybe RTD says it himself and smacks his own forehead when he sees the missed opportunity here. But like there could have been a line of dialogue inserted about how, well, music is rushing back into the world, Ruby. So, like, the next few hours are going to be pretty weird. People might be breaking out into song and dance without really knowing what they're doing, right? Just making it more in the storyline, because that is
Mm.
actually what RTG has said. And I think, again, it was in that Letting You All Down SFX interview, where he was like, oh no, that was just supposed to be music rushes back into the world, and what would people do but have a good song and dance, and I think that
Mm.
maybe because of his upbringing in Wales, which is a place where people burst into song more freely, and obviously I think it's fair to say that, than the British Isles at large, um, that maybe you just thought it would come across as more of a natural thing to do. Oh yeah, obviously this is a sort of a celebrate. This is the power of music that the maestro has been holding back all these years, suddenly rushing back into the world, and it just overtakes everyone. And everyone
Yeah.
is just having a song and dance, and it just feel. But then, like, and also maybe have a scene at the end where the doctor's like, that was weird.
Darn flash mobs, Kim Dong has just said. Like Liam's comment, the performance was great, just seemed so tacky and without that oomph that it needed more emphasis on the beat, maybe. But then again, melodic trumpets is a more musical way to go.
And also, missed opportunity to have Susan Twist
Mm.
in the Twist number. Come on, RTD. Like, gonna do the Susan Twist thing, have her twisting, even for 5 seconds. I don't know, at the corner of one shot, we're all gonna be screenshotting it, slowing it down, be like, yeah, that's Susan Twist.
Yeah, and I think where I'm kind of going with this, just to make sort of an Ober comment about the season, is that RTD is to, if there's anything we could say about his 2.0 version, it's he's uninhibited. He's
Mm-hmm.
just doing whatever and trusting his instincts and going with whatever he's doing. And this is coming out in a lot of ways that are probably good and like maybe fun risk taking, like the rogue face and
Mm-hmm.
doing all those interesting stories and the episodes that we liked. But it's also coming out, let's just do a dance number. And he's the Sutek stuff, we haven't talked much about that, but like bringing back Sutek, and which was, I thought, really cool and inspired. But then the resolution of that episode, like the whole death to death thing, which okay, I guess, like, basically, like, there seems to be a consensus emerging that is, the didn't stick the landing this season, right? And that
Yeah.
even though Legend of Ruben Sunday was actually a fairly good setup, that Empire of Death didn't really deliver. And I kind of wish, RTD, I wouldn't necessarily, I don't think they would ever have him be like a co-showrunner with Moffat, but I do feel like as collaborators, they're so good. And
Yep.
I think you need someone at his level to kind of bring him down to earth and check him. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like when people would say about Lucas in the prequels and no one was saying no
Yeah.
to him. Someone
We
needs
we've
to say no to RTD here and there, and I don't know if he has anyone.
we've called them the Doctor Who Beatles before because they need each other like John and Paul needed each other. You know, they each have their own strengths and weaknesses, and when they get together, when they're really working on an episode together, which they really weren't on Boom, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah.
When they really collaborate on an episode or a direction or a story or whatever, they knock it out of the park. Like, you know, Silence of the Library, Forest of the Dead was one of the great examples.
Power doesn't just combine, it multiplies.
Exactly. Well, I think one thing we can be grateful, because yes, RTD's problem that he needs Moffat to tamp down on is like his irrational exuberance. He's just flying away with, oh, I want music and every, like, I do, and I am glad that RTD has said that he was inspired by what his young self was thinking watching Pyramids of Mars and creating a sequel in his head, because I did not want the opportunity for there to be a song at the end of Empire of Death that is just about how Who let the dogs out. That would have been bad. That was his inspiration. I was thinking, who let the dogs out? Did he?
Paul Hammond here in the comments, a really good comment. He's saying we need something more like the producer, script, which I think he means script editor, but exactly like a JNT, Eric Sayward, or more like Hinchcliffe and God, was it Dix at the time? I forgot who was the script editor.
Yeah,
but 100%, like someone who really understands it and the nitty gritty of the storytelling, but someone who's also visionary and knows the vibe that they want to put out there.
Right, and knowing which one of them can communicate to the team that they're the communication breakdowns in classic Who of like between stage and screen, between the script and how the costumes looked at the end, and that the game of telephone that we see a lot.
Yeah. So broadly, I feel like we should have some sort of overall takeaways of this, and then probably bid adieu. But my feeling is that even though I think some of the episodes of season 1/14/40 of Doctor Who are some of the best that New Who has done, I am still a little uncomfortable with the direction the show is going in terms of the storytelling, right? Like, I do feel like it's not quite sure if it wants to be hard sci-fi or good for fans, or if it wants to be something inviting to new audiences. And if it's not inviting nuance, that's my whole point. I think that is, if I have a single conclusion of this, I think there's interesting stuff here, but it's not really telling a story in an arc kind of way that's fun and compelling for everyone at this point yet. And I'm sympathetic to 3-year plans and stuff, but I mean, you got to also have 1-year plans. And
I think you're right, but I think we also may overestimate what new fans need. And I think that if you show a new fan Devil's Cord or 73 Yards or even like Dot and Bubble, they get it. They're on there. Or Rogue, for a lot of people. Rogue fulfills that function. So I think there were jumping on points. I think they were a little more subtle than just like start at episode 1. That wasn't necessarily the best, especially with everything you had to pick up from Church on Ruby Road. Like, it wasn't starting afresh in a lot of ways, and there was this confusion. Like, I remember when Disney first sent out the screeners, they sent out Church on Ruby Road again as like episode 1, because you can't really understand Space Babies and Devil's Cord necessarily unless you've seen Church on Ruby Road. So I think RTD was kind of in a bind here, and I think he was in a bind in a lot of ways. And I do want to give a positive shout out to him for this, which is that we know now, looking back, like, Ncuti wasn't available for a lot of the season. He had to have what is, I think it's fair to say, the most Dr. Light season ever.
Yeah.
And shout out to Ncuti for being so large in his presence that you almost don't notice, because he's so big when he is on the screen, right? But it is like, it's lighter than any. We used to have the only one Dr. Light episode. Now we had 2, and some of the rest aren't all that Dr. Non-Light. So working within that constraint and grabbing Ncuti while he was still not a huge movie star, as I'm sure he will be, very, very shortly. And then, locking him into season 2 as well. Like, we got to remember, season 2 is filming. It is coming. It is close. It's closer than it otherwise would have been. And certainly, like, there's no focus grouping after season 1, right? RTD is just whatever plan he had, he's plunging ahead with it. So I want to give him a shout out for that. And also, just to close on a note of just like a tiny thing, the I think we should both name one little thing that we both appreciate about this season. It could be really small, just a thing that sticks in your head. And for me, it was the use of California Soul in The Devil's Chord, that song where the Doctor, Ruby says, "Oh, we should change for 1963," and the Doctor runs off screaming, "I've got wigs," which is, I think, deserves to be an immortal line in the Doctor Who canon. And then they use that just so funky, fantastic opening of California Soul that has nothing to do with Abbey Road 1963, nothing whatsoever. It's not a Beatles song. It shouldn't necessarily work there, but it really does. And the way they've, like, every time I watch that scene, I want to break it down. Like, they're doing some sort of fast motion on the camera, but they've told Millie and Ncuti to walk slowly. Like, it's just, we sort of like checking his cuffs and the music. And it's just such a perfect marriage of music and like, this is what it really means to travel in the TARDIS, So it's a beautiful moment, quite apart from the fact that I love that song. I am California proud. I live in California, and it was used to great effect, by the way, in an Apple event a couple of years ago. So I'm glad that it's getting more exposure. It's such a great tune. And yeah, that was the moment. One of the moments early in the season where I was like, I'm in. Like this sort of nails it. It's fresh, but it's also explaining the show very well, and it's funky. And
nice.
What great use of music.
So
it isn't as expensive as a piece of Beatle music, I'll just say.
That's a nice subtle thing. Yeah, I don't know if anything that subtle that I can sort of come to mind. I will say like a couple of things that I think are a little bit overlooked, but are actually really good in terms of like little scenes and performances. One is I think Ncuti Gatwa's first performance, not his first performance, but in Space Babies when Ruby first enters the TARDIS and he has to give that really quick 411 on who he is and what the show is. And I really like his doctor there, where he's emphasizing what he's like and his emotive nature. And this is a new guy. But it's also the same show and also with the same emotional journey that the Doctor had been on, like particularly when he talks about how the Time Lords all died. They're all died, and he kind of says it out loud, and he's aware of what he said, and he's just
gone.
Like,
he says, "There's that wailing
that was it.
Gone," and then calms himself down.
Yeah,
and he's just sort of leaning on the jukebox. They're gone, babes. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it takes sort of an exposition type scene for new people and Ruby, and turns it into something that is also a character moment for him, which I thought was really nice. And I just wanted to just say something about Dot and Bubble one more time. Again, it actually has a lot to say about social media. Like we can all focus on the racism aspect and all this stuff, but it's like I love that it has all those layers to it, and obviously the Black Mirror founding, but all the stuff with the gadget, the dot that puts you literally in a bubble. And I think there's just so much to mine there out of bad outcomes coming from that. Not that anyone who's like deeply into social media automatically becomes a racist or something, but I mean, rabbit holes happen, right? Like, well,
it's when you think about the fact that they're being directed, right? I mean, that sort of feels like a commentary on Google Maps, right? We can't. I don't know about you. I have a hard time driving without Google Maps these days, right? Without a little screen in front of me with arrows on it.
Yeah, like I said, it's not necessarily a little thing, but it is one of those things like, oh yeah, that was actually a great episode, even without the dark twist, and that the twist really made it even like 10 times better. And now you kind of forgot about all the other stuff that was intriguing.
It's also a nice commentary on like we've all had the experience of like you're walking down the street behind or in front of, coming the opposite way of someone who is just staring at their phone and walking. And I think we've all had the experience of being that person. as well. Like that is a thing about modern culture. So like even just throwing that in the Dot and Bubble thing of just like we're a society that's, if we're not careful, we're going to have our phones tell us how to move. Well, actually that's a very legit comparison, right?
Fair. So listen, we should start getting our twist at the end here and moving toward the wrapping this up. So guys, reminder, we're going to be at Long Island Who in 2 weeks. If you're there, check it out, come say hi, and otherwise tell all your friends.
Yes. And
You know,
do go check out the past episodes of Pull to Open that we've mentioned. We did do hot takes. We didn't think we were going to do this, but we did literally hot takes on every single episode of the season. And I think for the most part, our opinions still stand. I think we've done some amendment through this live. So, but yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in there. So go check those out.
please check them out. Come on back here in about a week where there will be more terror for you. And a week after that, hopefully live from Long Island Who. But thanks for joining us. We'll definitely sort out all the liveness at some point. Thanks for sticking with us. For those of you that went through our rehearsal prior to going live or after we went live. Anyway, there was a lot of going live that happened,
Yes.
and we're going to get better at it. So.
And just to bring it back around to the beginning, happy Doctor Who podcast day! And please, if you are a Doctor Who fan who has thought, hey, maybe I want to do a podcast, do it. This is the day to do it. Do it live.
It's not as hard as we made it look. All right,
Yeah.
folks.
Good note to end on. Bye, everyone.
See ya.